CBS is not over, and it's playing out like a new fall drama with the latest installment right there. You see that spike in the stock? This is an intraday picture. It's kind of bumping around, and then it spiked 3 1/3% on news that Charlie Gasparino is breaking right now. Give it to us.
I mean, listen, this is a company ripe for updates about what's going on internally after the Leslie Moonves imbroglio, and he was forced out as CEO. Here's some of the updates that we do have about this company, which is a company right now in transition, I guess is the best way to put it, following Moonves' exit. What we understand from company sources that the CBS board is planning to search for a new CEO, even as members considered the current interim CEO, Joe Ianniello, the former COO, essentially Leslie Moonves' right-hand man. He's considered a leading candidate, not the leading, a leading. He apparently does have some strong support on the board. I think the stock is moving somewhat on that, but they're also moving on this, that from we understand from sources inside the company that the CBS board will soon begin to test the market for a potential buyer, and that would likely come sometime after the Moonves probe. So we should point out the Moonves probe into those sexual harassment allegations that led to his departure is still ongoing. I don't have a good time frame when it's going to end, other than soon, I've been told. The outcome of that is it could be that Leslie Moonves gets some of his roughly $150 million severance package.
Is he really going to get that?
Or zero. It depends on who you talk to.
I don't think there will be massive pushback.
I talk to people internally. They tell me unlikely to get all of it, or even most of it, or even is a good chance he's not going to get any of it. And the whole thing goes to arbitration where they'll fight it out. That's what I think will happen, at least from people internally. I can't guarantee that. That's the speculation. What isn't speculation, though, is the notion that CBS's board will look for a potential buyer at some point for the company.
Okay.
They're going to test the waters, I understand, once this investigation is over, and they're getting new board members in, but they are going to go out there and test the waters. I don't have the information that they've essentially hired bankers now to do it. This thing is apparently going to happen at some point soon.
What thing? The sale
the
of
sale.
the company? Let's be clear.
The shopping of the company.
The shopping.
And here's the thing. If they can't find a buyer, you'll probably see it end up with Viacom, which is what Sherry Redstone,
wanted all along.
The head of the controlling Redstone family that control National Amusements, which controls Viacom, two media properties, and CBS. That's will be the outcome if they can't find a buyer. And when you talk to people like Rich Greenfield, one of the best analysts out there in terms of media at BTIG, he thinks the natural place will be with Viacom. And here's his theory. Tech companies, AT&T is out of it, right? They have their hands full with Time Warner. Comcast can't get any bigger because the Justice Department is basically telling them every day, we do not want you getting bigger with U.S. media properties. There's not that much out there that could buy them other than a tech firm. Tech has not shown an inclination to buy old media properties. They create their own, Netflix, Amazon. So they're back in the arms of Viacom. That's where it will eventually end up. Now, can't guarantee that. That's just Rich's theory, but it does make some sense. What we can tell you is that the board is going to be doing a search for a permanent CEO. Ianniello is a leading candidate, and the board will be shopping the company at some point after the Moonves thing is done.
What do you think of, we've got now Phil Bredesen, the candidate for Senate of Tennessee, who is tweeting now, and he's saying, thank you, Taylor Swift, for the kind words. So now you've got celebrities weighing in on midterm elections, which is interesting. He, of course, in sort of a head-to-head race with Marsha Blackburn in Tennessee, people throwing a fit saying Taylor Swift should be quiet. Well, did the Trump fans say that about Kanye and wearing his Make America Great?
Well,
there are people, too. I mean, everybody's allowed to give their opinion.
I agree, but we do, I'm not saying that she shouldn't have an opinion, but we do give the Kardashians and the Taylor Swifts, we give them way too much credit. These are not
big business stories, too.
These are not brilliant political minds.
Is Kanye?
No, I'm just saying we give them. We give
Willie
them all.
Nelson is weighing in for Beto O'Rourke in the Senate
I don't
race
any of none of them.
Texas.
I could care less about any of them. None of them know. Most of these musicians, they barely read. They're not that smart. And they couldn't find a rear end with both hands.
You are so crazy.
I'm telling you. They know. These are not you.
I just was at the Rock Hall of Fame in Cleveland. Yay! Browns win!
Did you ever see...
and they're smart.
Did you ever
they made a lot of money.
Ever listen to Sean Penn try to string together a logical sentence?
Well, the good news is it's a free country. People can voice their
I agree, but
opinions.
we make these celebrity TV
that
people
is true.
that they're so brilliant and they know everything.
Charlie, thank you.
They're good looking. They're glib.
So
that doesn't
are you,
mean
Charlie.
they're smart.
I'm just trying to be nice to him to get him to be quiet.
Shut up.
Oh, shut up.